when you take back your power to own the things that you can control and take radical responsibility for your life and your business, it will be a game changer. Okay, so in today's video, we are talking about the top habits of successful entrepreneurs. Now, this is always a really sexy, fun topic to discuss because I feel like we are inundated as entrepreneurs in the online space with like the $1 million morning routine and this 2-hour morning routine or hack that I have in order to be most productive. So I really wanted to take some time and reflect on my own journey, on all of the hundreds of clients that I've served and peers in this space, and as well as asking some people in this space, what are the habits that they are truly doing, not just for show, on Instagram and social media, but what are the habits that they are truly doing that are having the most impact on their success. So I've boiled it down for you guys. We've got 12 of them to go through and I'm really excited. Before we dive into the 12 habits here of successful entrepreneurs, if you are loving these videos and learning about elevating your own journey and your own business, I would so appreciate it if you would give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel here. And I would also love to know in the comments below, what are any habits that you are currently doing or that you have heard of that are really, really impactful for driving success outside of the ones that we've listed here, because I'm always loving to hear y'all's opinions on all of the topics we discuss. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so before we dive into number one little thing that I want to mention here is when we're talking about success, right? That is a very vague word. That's a very big word. So success is not a number. In all honesty, success is subjective to you and what that really means and looks like to you in your life and your business. So take that into consideration. But as we're looking at all of these different habits, I really wanted to reflect on, those leaders, the people that rise to the top in their industry. So again, it's not reflective of any certain benchmark, in growing a business, but those that get stuff done, get the things that they want to get done and really rise to the top. So with that being said, the first habit of successful entrepreneurs is planning ahead and using a calendar. Now, this one might seem really simple and obvious, but it is truly a habit that you need to develop within your own life and your own business in order to be able to continue achieving, these high benchmarks. And this is something that whether you identify as an organized person or not, as a planner or not, it's something that we need to change at the identity level and really make a part of your life. You cannot remember all the things that you need to do. It weighs so much, and mental energy is really what I want to highlight here with some of this, is that you are really sacrificing what you could be using your mental energy for within your business, within your life, with achieving those goals, with strategizing, with dreaming, like any of those things, when you are not organized, when you're constantly having to chase after things, when you are relying on remembering, ooh, what was I supposed to do today? Where was I supposed to be, right? And I think this is really, really difficult for a lot of people getting into their own business because you've never had to be fully responsible for everything across the board, from the back end organization to the front end of just where am I supposed to be, who am I supposed to be talking to. So having a system in place for organization and, more importantly, your calendar, your planner, your daily to-dos, all of that type of stuff is absolutely crucial for success. Now, I will admit, I am definitely type A, love me some organization. I always have. I literally, when I was writing this video, I was like, I feel like in middle school and in elementary school, I was that kid with the color-coded planner and always had my homework done on time. But despite any of that, I could not run my business without my daily to-dos and my calendars and all of these things being in sync and top-notch organized. It is how I am able to be so productive, to plan ahead and to run an entire team, right? So if you're curious about a little bit more of this, I have a video all about how I plan my weekly schedule and month as an entrepreneur that is super, super helpful that you can watch here. And then I also have another video specifically about how I use ClickUp in my business, because ClickUp is a big part of how I stay organized like this. So you can watch that video here as well. So before moving on to point number two sub points that I want to highlight about organization and calendar is you need to figure out a system that works for you, right? So it's not always about right or wrong, but you really need to figure out something to relieve that mental energy. So when you have all those scattered thoughts throughout the day, where do they go? How do we revisit them? And what do we do with them? And then the next thing on top of having a schedule and a calendar and organization is that you need to understand and have priorities in your life. Again, seems very obvious, seems like something you've probably heard before, but this is one of the biggest downfalls that I see of other entrepreneurs who are not achieving what they want to achieve, is that you don't have clear priorities and you're trying to do everything, and so it stays really scattered. And this is one huge benefit of having a calendar and a schedule and knowing exactly what you need to be doing. Habit number 2 is having very, very clear intentions and goals. So successful people, they don't know all the answers. They don't have it all figured out. And when they start going, they definitely don't know how they're going to get there. And the thing to remember about your vision and your goals is that it can change. In fact, it's 100% going to change, whether you think it's going to or not. So that's not really what it's about. It's about knowing what you want and driving 100% towards that goal rather than staying scattered and chasing after someone else's dream. And while we never intend to do that, you can get really lost doing that. And that might be a huge contributing factor to why you're not moving forward 1 million miles an hour towards what you want. So successful people know what they want and they go get it, right? Like, it is no question. It is clear because they have those super, super clear intentions and goals for where they're headed. And then when new insight comes, they change the goal and they go in that new direction, right? But they are always going 1,000,000%. Their life is always very, very aligned around those goals and intentions. Habit number 3 is self-discipline. So when it boils down to it, successful people have the discipline to get stuff done. Like, they are willing to do whatever it takes, and they have the self-discipline, which is most important, rather than needing to rely on any external circumstances or other people in order to get done what they need to get done. And I think this is not talked about quite as much in this space because it's kind of like a hard truth, but it's truly one of the most determining factors of your success is, are you willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do? And do you have the discipline to sit down and get it done? That is going to absolutely change the game for you when you can hone in on this. And I understand this is easier said than done. One reason this is so difficult is because a lot of people, most people in fact, choose comfort over growth. They choose comfort over discomfort. And when you are having to force yourself to be disciplined, to do the things that you want to do when you don't feel like it, when you don't feel like showing up, it's uncomfortable to do the things that you are afraid to do or that are risky, but that you just know need to get done, right? It's uncomfortable. And so you really have to make sure, this even goes back to the last point, what are your goals? What are your vision? What are you willing to do in order to get where you want to go? Part of this kind of means being resourceful. This is a really key trait of successful people, is you can't wait for anything to be ideal. You can't wait for someone to present an opportunity for you or hand something to you. When you don't know something, you got to get resourceful, right? That's kind of that unstoppable energy combined with that discipline of, I need to get this done. I'm going to get this done. If I don't know how to do it, I'm going to be resourceful, right? And the last thing that I want to highlight about this habit of discipline is that all of the people that you see, at the top or, wherever it is that you look up to as success, it has cost them something hugely to get to where they are. And this boils back into discipline because it is going to cost you something. That's the harsh truth of it, to discipline yourself and to sacrifice other things in order to put all of your energy towards what you want. And so that's really where it comes back to knowing, what am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to do in order to get where I want? And then honing into that self-discipline to do it. Habit number 4 is taking action consistently. So I kind of combined 2 habits in one here because it really is this habit of just taking action, period, and then the habit of also just being consistent that really come into play together. But as you guys know, if you've heard any of my other videos, my Instagram stories, anything like that, I am huge, huge, huge on execution and action, because even when we don't have it all figured out, that is going to be the thing, foolproof, that will always move you forward. You might have to keep pivoting back and forth here to get where you want, but 99% of the time, thinking more after just that first 24 hours of thinking through a decision, thinking more isn't going to get you anywhere. It's either going to land you into overthinking or overwhelm or anything like that. And so especially when in entrepreneurship, when you are running a business, you're never going to have all the answers. You're never going to be able to see exactly how it's going to play out. But the only thing you can do, and the thing that you have to do in order to see success, in order to move forward, is take action. And it's not just one action, right? It is truly making this a habit in your life of every day taking action consistently. The thing to note about this is that no one is an overnight success. And I know we know that, but really, really know that, because a lot of people, they get excited. They've got an idea. They're like, yes, okay, I'm going to do this. And they sprint towards success. But then when things are not quite turning out the way that they wanted it to, right, they let fear and they let the pressure crumble them. And that's where the consistency piece comes in. That's where the action piece comes in, is you've got to have endurance. You've got to have persistence in order to get to where you see that success marker at. And this is something that I hear from every single successful client and entrepreneur and peer in this space, that this is just a non-negotiable, and it really is a habit. It's a mental state of every single day, making sure that that is something that you are doing. Habit number 5 is confidence. And this comes out in a lot of different ways, but successful people have confidence and they exude it, and they even practice and work on it every single day. So this even boils back into mindset and making sure that you have this unshakable core, that you are truly, like, this cannot be faked, confident in yourself and what you do, and every day you are moving forward and you are stepping into that confidence, even when, again, it doesn't feel like it. It's a conscious decision and action to step into your confidence and to work on whatever needs to be worked on. Again, this is really a lot of personal development stuff that dips into business here, but that's going to make you successful, because every successful person has that confidence that just exudes, right? It's part of what magnetizes people to them. And it's also what will help you when the fear pops in, when you approach failure, when you have to take those big risks. The confidence is the thing that is going to help you do that. And so we really have to hone into that and make that a consistent practice and thing that we're paying attention to in our lives. Habit number 6 is to be continuously learning. So this is something I love anyways, so I'm very glad that this happens to be something that impacts your success so hugely. But successful entrepreneurs continuously learn. There is never a point where you stop learning, where you are just complacent with the knowledge and the perspectives that you have. And so whether this is hiring a mentor, buying a course, going to a virtual retreat or training, learning a new way of approaching something. Like for me, I invested in an NLP certification the other year. All of this has been hugely beneficial, not just to the direct correlation of my services and literally what I provide, my services and products, but truly just to me and to each individual, successful person out there, in how you operate, how you run your own business. And when you stop learning, that is when you stay stagnant. That is when you and your business stop growing. Habit number 7 is having the willingness to be vulnerable and be exposed. So this is important because in entrepreneurship, or really to achieve success in anything, even as a professional athlete, like you could take this across the board, you have to be willing to take massive risks if you're going to stand out, if you're going to achieve, these big dreams. And so you have to have this willingness to put your neck out there, right? To do the things that other people are not willing to do. And part of that's going to mean failure. Part of that's going to mean being super vulnerable and being really uncomfortable. And it's never just once, right? This really is a habit, because it's something that you just have to do again and again and again. And on a part of being willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, this also means questioning who you are and every fiber of your being, really, as far as like what you believe, what you stand for, because that's going to evolve and change the more new perspectives that you learn and the more risks that you take and the more that you see that you are capable of. And so if you ever stay stuck in the beliefs in the current state of which you believe, that will absolutely be something that deters you from reaching your goals. Habit number 8, and this one is one of my personal favorites, but again, something that I've seen across the board with many entrepreneurs, is learning to balance emotion versus action. And again, this is a daily thing. So what I mean by this is you have to be able to separate the two things. You have to be able to separate the emotion in the moment from the action that you are taking. And I get people asking me in particular all the time, how do you get so much done in a week? How do you get so much done in a day? And it really boils down to even beyond the little strategy pieces here and there of what am I doing, it boils down to the fact that I do not let my emotions dictate my actions. So in the moment, my emotions might be feeling, like I don't want to do it, or, sad or something like that. But the actions and the logical decisions that I make to determine what I actually do are not based solely on the emotion. So this kind of comes back to even that self-discipline piece, that I motivate myself simply because in the moment, regardless of how I feel, I know what needs to get done to help me achieve my goals. And so this is something that I've heard from a lot of different entrepreneurs as well, is that you really have to make sure you're able to separate the emotion from the action, and you can take the emotion into consideration, because there are absolutely points and times when we need to like listen to our body, when we need to rest or, do all of these things, but they cannot dictate your actions always. Habit number 9 is that exercise is a priority. So for all of these successful entrepreneurs, this one was like across the board from everyone that I see and have talked to, that exercise is a priority in their life. And it's something we've definitely heard. I mean, we all know exercise is like important in nutrition and whatnot, but quite literally, of course, y'all know I like look up the science behind everything for me to like feel motivated by it. And I have always loved exercising. I was a personal trainer for 5 years, all that. But what exercise does is quite literally, it improves your brain function. It makes you more creative, and it literally makes you feel more energized. In fact, I used to have a much better habit of doing this, that anytime in university when I was feeling sluggish or down or, struggling with my studies, I immediately stopped whatever I was doing, no matter how tired I was, and I went to the gym, and like I was 10 times more productive and felt 10 times better, even in the moment though that it was super hard. So habit number 10 is taking responsibility. Radical responsibility here, where you understand that you are responsible for your success. You are responsible, and you are the only one responsible for your results. And when we really take back our power, despite, this is the key word here, despite any external circumstances or what other people are doing, even sometimes when we can't control it, when you take back your power to own the things that you can control and take radical responsibility for your life and your business, it will be a game changer, not only mentally from a mindset perspective, but quite literally from a results perspective of achieving your dreams and success. The other part of taking responsibility is not needing accountability. So this one really goes back to self-discipline as well, but take accountability that no matter what insight or, mentorship or any of this stuff that I can add that can be beneficial, you cannot rely on accountability. You need to rely on what you can do, and again, taking that responsibility that you are responsible for the results and the actions that you take to move forward. Habit number 11, we've got 2 more here for you guys. So habit number 11 is delaying instant gratification. And I think this kind of intertwines itself with really being persistent, but I like looking at it from this perspective of delaying instant gratification, because it's something that I see so often, especially with new entrepreneurs. They get into the space, they're energized, they're excited to dive in, but it dwindles really fast, especially when they feel like they're going through the motions and not seeing the results. And you can in fact be doing the right actions and be going through all the right motions and still not be seeing results. And it doesn't mean that you need to change or stop what you're doing. There are so many points in building a business and in entrepreneurship and pursuing anything where you just have to be persistent. You just have to keep going. And it's delaying that instant gratification that we often expect and of course would like to have, to know that it is coming, to know that the results will get there. And so it's great to be ambitious. It's great to, want all of these things, but we also have to balance that with a little bit of patience and consistency to keep going, and really make sure that we know what we're doing and that we're confident in ourselves that the actions we're doing, they are gonna yield results. And you really have to be able to lean into that and to delay that instant gratification that we're oftentimes looking for. Okay, the last habit is financial responsibility. So this comes out in quite a few different ways when you are an entrepreneur, when you are managing a business, but this is a habit that is really key, and it's often not talked about. It's often not like as sexy as, having a morning routine or all of this stuff, but it is crucial to you achieving your goals and to you reaching success. So what I mean by this is most entrepreneurs, most successful people that you're looking at, they have multiple streams of income. And so this kind of ties into the money piece here, and that you are being super smart. You are knowing all of your numbers, and that you, even if this is having an Airbnb and a business, like totally unrelated things, but eventually, so it doesn't all have to be from day one, but eventually you are diversifying your income in multiple ways. Now, this comes back though to that financial responsibility piece of actually knowing your numbers, being on top of your numbers, even when it's not fun. The taxes, the income, the expenses, the profit, the amount of times that I talk to clients and entrepreneurs and they have no clue what their profit margins are, how much their expenses were that month, anything like that. I literally have a heart attack every single time, because this is so important for you to achieving your goals and to being able to make the best decisions possible to be able to move you forward. So if you're curious, specifically how I track income and expenses for entrepreneurs, you can check out this video here where I actually walk you through my entire tracker and system for doing that to make this super, super easy and replicatable for you. But this is something, regardless of that video and that tracker there, that you need to get on top of literally yesterday, and it is absolutely going to impact your success. So I hope you guys are really excited about identifying some of these key areas in your life and in your business that you can work on that are going to have such an impact to reaching your goals and success. And I kind of want to boil this down to, because we obviously covered a lot of different things, but ultimately success and being a successful entrepreneur is going to boil down to pushing the boundaries of what you think, pushing the boundaries of what you're capable of, pushing the boundaries of what you are comfortable with, and being okay to put yourself out there and try and fail and really question everything that you do, everything that you believe, in order to become the best version of yourself, in order to create the business that is most aligned with your goals and vision. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. If you have any other habits that you have seen that have really had a huge impact on your life and your business that we didn't cover here today, drop them in the comments below. I love seeing, maybe I can add an updated list for all of us to look at of a blog post of all of these different ideas, and I'll continue to add the ones that you guys describe below. Thank you so much for watching my channel and my video. As always, you guys can check out some of these other videos here, whichever direction that they are, on all things entrepreneurship, business, marketing, and digital nomad lifestyle.